Howdy, this is Mackenzie Franklin from SideGame LLC here in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Today we're doing my top 10 inexpensive board games, my favorites that are all $25 and under. This is a Patreon voted video, and if you have any interest in joining our Patreon and voting on future videos like this, please follow the links in the description below. If you haven't subscribed to the channel already, please make sure that you do. It is the best way to help us grow. Let's get started talking about some awesome, inexpensive board games. My number 10 goes to That's Pretty Clever. This is the first in a series of board games, all from Wolfgang Warsch, that follow the same line of play. The whole purpose is to try to get as many points as possible by using your dice effectively. You'll roll some dice, pick one of the numbers, place it on your board, and then anything that's lower than that number goes into a public out-of-play area. You'll then roll your remaining dice and do that until you've collected 3. Then all of the other players will then take one of those dice that's on the tray. Now this game is extremely quick to play, easy to learn, and is full of combo-tastic moves as you take different actions in these 5 different minigames. Now my favorite part about this game are those different combos. Every time you play a minigame, you may achieve some form of bonus that's on these right sides or these bottoms. Each area will score you points in a variety of ways and give you bonuses that you play into each of the other minigames. There are actually 3 different games in this series: That's So Clever, Twice as Clever, and Clever Cube. And I recommend all of them. I think they're great fits, and they all have that same satisfying action selection system of using the dice. They also play extremely well solo and travel very well. I find myself playing them on airplanes and wherever I go. Excellent series of games. That's the That's So Clever series, my number 10. My number 9 is Wits and Wagers. Now this can be any of the editions of the game. You can actually find the family editions for under $20, and then the It's Vegas Baby runs for around $25. So whatever version you like, this is a trivia game at its heart. The way it works is every single trivia question will be based on a number. You'll write down your answers on these dry erase pads, and then you'll put them all face down and flip them up and order them in ascending order. Then you're going to bet on who you think is actually closest to that answer without going over. This is a brilliant system because you are able to play a trivia game without actually having to know the answers, but more so reading the other people at the table and making the best guess possible. It feels really awesome when you're able to get it right, but it feels even better when you're able to correctly identify it based on the people that are playing. I really enjoy the different betting systems that are available in the It's Vegas Baby edition, and my favorite parts about the game are the questions themselves. I love that they're pretty timeless. It might give you a date about when did this thing happen, and that's not gonna change, so it doesn't matter when you play this game, all the questions will be relevant. They may be a bit more difficult in the future, actually, because more time will have passed. It's a great feeling to search through your psyche, to try to form some form of connection to a question that you may know nothing about, but if you get close enough, you may just take that win. Great experience, amazing trivia game, and it's easily accessible for all ages. That's Wits and Wagers, It's Vegas Baby, my number 9. My number 8 goes to Codenames Duet, the 2-player cooperative version of the critically acclaimed Codenames. This one has you playing instead of 2 teams on the same single board, placing pieces together. It's your goal to deplete your entire stack of green tiles while making sure you do it in a certain amount of time based on the mission that you're participating in. When it's your turn, you'll have to give a clue and try to connect as many words as possible. For example, banana, chip. I might say plantains, and hopefully you're able to connect those 2 things. But you're trying to bite off more than you can chew usually, trying to get maximum value on the amount of clues that you're able to give. This is a great puzzle as both players are consistently playing, giving each other clues, and sometimes eliminating answers or key words that may help out one another. My favorite part about the game are the big connections that you can attempt to make, and getting to understand and know the player that you're playing with. My primary partner for this game is Ariana, my wife, and we find this extremely challenging still today, even though we've been playing it for years. I think we've won maybe 4 or 5 times, but I just love seeing how she makes connections to words and what's going on in her head. It's a great way to get to know someone. It doesn't matter who you're playing with. Love Codenames Duet, an incredible implementation of the party game system. My number 7 goes to Coloretto, a set collection game of colorful chameleons. On your turn, you simply are going to either draw a card and place it into a stack. Each stack can have 3, or take one of those stacks. You'll do this until the end of the game is triggered, and then whoever has the most points wins, and you get points for having chameleons, and a lot of them. However, you're only going to ever score for your 3 largest groups of chameleons, and everything else is negative points. So when you're taking those groups, you want to make sure that you're collecting same colors, by also not getting stuck with colors that are out of your different suits. This is a great choice, great tension, and I love how easy it is to explain, play and how you can really make satisfying decisions throughout the game. My favorite part about this game is that the push your luck comes from not just the deck of cards that you're drawing from, but also from the other players at the table. Whenever you draw a card, you're giving every other player the opportunity to take that card before you get a chance. So do you put it in a place that's enticing for you, or will others notice that and take that before you get a chance to? A great push your luck system that's all player driven. There are also some great promos for the game, bonus cards and limit cards that are going to change minor rules. And because the core system is so simple, these minor rules have big, devastating effects. Some of them will make it so you only score your 2 biggest groups of chameleons, which is wild because you're suddenly taking way more negatives. Or some will make the +2 bonus cards -2s in the game. This makes for a lot of variety and makes me super excited to just play more Colorado. That's my number 7, Colorado. My number 6 goes to Hanamikoji, an I Cut You Choose game, where you're going to be offering these gifts in order to gain the favor of geishas. The game is a lane-based tug-of-war system, where each player is going to be taking 4 unique actions, and at the end of those actions, they're going to compare the cards in front of each geisha, and if they have the most, they're going to claim control of the favor of that geisha. My favorite parts about this game have to do with the round structure as well as the actions you're taking. At the end of each round, you're going to check to see who has the most strength for each of these geisha. Now, after you gain the favor, you'll move that token closer to you. If you've won the favor and the game's not over yet, then in the next round, you simply need to tie in that geisha in order to make sure the marker doesn't move, which is really cool because you can stake claim in these different areas and then have a little bit of leverage and a little bit of leniency when it comes to power of certain cards. I really like this system as you're able to be a bit more risky with your plays. And that leads me to my second favorite thing, the action system. This is an I Cut You Choose system with 4 unique tiles that each player has to use. You have 2 that are going to allow you to get rid of cards and play one secret, but the other 2 are I Cut You Choose tiles. One of them is going to have you putting 3 cards out, your opponent takes 1, you get the other 2, and the last one has you making 2 piles of 2 cards each. Your opponent takes 1, and you get the other. I love this choice because you're always trying to put your opponent into a bind that's going to be best for you. It's a really interesting system to wrap your head around, and it may not make sense at first, but since the actions are so simple, it's a great one to get acquainted with and be able to come back to again and again. This is being re-implemented into Geisha's Road, and I'm curious to see what that's going to do to the Hanamikoji system, but I hope that it retains this I Cut You Choose mechanism. That's my number 6, Hanamikoji. My number 5 goes to Fantasy Realms, a hand management game of combo crafting, as all you'll do on your turn is draw a card from the top of the deck or from a face-up display, and then discard a card to that face-up display. Once a certain amount of cards has been revealed, the game ends immediately, and then you score your hand. That's my favorite part of this game, is how the scoring happens. Each of these cards has 3 different things to look at. The first is the base strength in the upper left here. This is just how many points they're worth straight up. And then you have the bonus, which gives you something you can chase for. For example, this Beastmaster here gets an extra +9 for each beast. This Bell Tower, +15 for any one wizard. And then the candle here, +100 points with the Book of Changes, the Bell Tower, and any one wizard. Now, this seems like it would be crazy to do, and that's the point. This game pushes you to make really fun plays and have you shoot the moon with a variety of different cards and different options that you can pursue. There's a lot of flavor in the way that the interactions work, and the expansion, the Cursed Horde, adds even more interesting shoot the moon aspects with the new Outsider class. The last thing that can be on a card is a penalty, and this comes in a variety of ways, whether it be negative strength or whether it be things that clear your other cards, which means they turn them face down and they don't count at all for scoring. I love taking these cards with really harsh penalties or minor penalties and figuring out how to work the rest of my cards and weave a plan that's going to score me a high amount of victory points. I love the different choices, and I love how you can always pick a card and try to go for that strategy. This is Fantasy Realms, my number 5. My number 4 goes to Cockroach Poker Royal. This also comes in the form of standard Cockroach Poker, but I prefer this one slightly more because it has just a little bit more content. Now, Cockroach Poker Royal's action system is very simple. On your turn, you're going to be given a card to one of the other players, any of them, and you say, this is a blank, this is a cockroach, a fly, and they have to decide, yes it is, no it isn't, or they look at it and give it to someone else. As soon as the card is revealed, if the person was caught lying or the person who accused was wrong, that player is going to have to take that card in front of them. If you ever get 4 cards of the same type in front of you, you'll lose. But you also can lose if you run out of cards in your hand. This leads to some interesting strategy where you may be saying specific words at are going to make people a little jumpy. If a player already has 3 cockroaches, they're going to be pretty terrified when someone gives them a card and says, hey, this is a cockroach. My favorite part about the Royal Edition in particular, though, has to be the Royal suit itself. The way it works is there's going to be a penalty stack that's in the center of the table with the top card face up for all to see. If someone ever plays a card face down and claims it's a royal or not, and they flip it and they end up having to take one of these royal cards, they also have to take the top card from the penalty pile. This puts a lot of pressure on all the different players because they know that at some point in the game, someone is going to be taking that top card and everybody is aware of what it is. This can be very scary when maybe someone's getting their 4th card of a specific set, or in just general, like you can see here, if it's a royal on top of that, because now they have to take that card and then the next card, which they're unsure of. This adds for a lot of scary, tense moments, and I really enjoy the dynamic it brings to the game. For a simple, fun, bluffing ruckus of a game, I recommend Cockroach Poker, my number 4. My number 3 goes to Monikers, the best word-based party game in my opinion. This has you playing in 2 teams trying to guess words. In the first round, you can say whatever you want, saying, hey, what's Doge? It's that cute Shiba Inu, he's got a goofy face. If they get it, excellent, you slap the card face up, go to the next one. If they can't get it, you go to the next one anyway, and try to get them to get one correctly. You'll do this until the deck is depleted, and then you go to the second round where you play with only 1-word hints, and then you play another round where it's charades. This game is a high-energy, real-time experience, and you need to know that going in, but it produces one of my favorite phenomenons in gaming, and that is an in-game creation of a meta. Round after round, you'll be describing these cards, and that'll give you some form of inside joke that is consistently repeated and is going to help guide others to answers. One card that may have been extremely difficult to understand, like Catherine the Great's horse, may all of a sudden devolve into something extremely silly, like a neigh or a whimper. I'm not sure exactly what you'll be doing at your table, but I just love how this evolves, and it is going to bring you laughs, joy, and it's going to bring you something that you can talk about from round to round, but also afterwards. This is a game that makes memories and makes moments all from the creativity of the players at the table. The game is also extremely cost-effective because you can play it with pretty much anything. Monikers is the popular version of the game right now, but it's also known as Fishbowl, Time's Up. There are a lot of different ways to play this. One of my favorite ways to play this is actually using a box of Cards Against Humanity cards instead of the normal Monikers set. You also could do some really fun things where people maybe create their own cards, so that means that this game can just be the cost of some pencils and some paper. I love this system. I love that it's the creativity of the people trying to describe and that evolving meta throughout. Incredible party game, incredible experience, but whew, I am tired after this one. That is Monikers, my number 3. My number 2 goes to For Sale, an auction game where you play as house flippers. You're going to do your best to buy houses through an auction system and then play those houses in order to claim value cards. Now, the game is separated into 2 distinct halves, and I love the theme and how it integrates into the gameplay. You're spending your money on these houses and then flipping them, hopefully, for a lot of gains. These numbers go from 1 to 30, and then the next half of the game, they're going to go from 0 to 15, value-wise. You start the game with a fixed amount of money, and whenever you bid, you are bidding to take the highest card. However, if you drop out of a bid, you have to give up half of your money, rounded up, just to take the lowest card then. You could do some risky plays where you hike up the price, but even that is going to cost you when you eventually drop out. Or if you win with a high bid, that's all the money you have for this entire auctioning phase, so you have to be very careful with how you allocate and spend your money and when it's worth it to push for that extra cost. In the second half, all players play a card face down, reveal it, and whoever has the highest number takes the highest value. This is such a simple, elegant, clean system that anyone can understand because it's buying and selling houses and trying to get the most money. My favorite part about this game is trying to evaluate the value of each card as they come up. You're always going to get a display of 4, and it's up to you in that moment to decide the worth of those cards. And this makes for extreme tension and extremely thoughtful decision making, but in a short time frame. For Sale is my favorite welcoming auctioning game, and I recommend you give this one a try. My number 2. My number 1 is my favorite auctioning game. This is Biblios, where you play as monks trying to gather materials for different manuscripts in order to create the most impressive library. Gameplay-wise, this translates to a hand management game of majority control that's played in 2 distinct halves. In the first half, you have this excellent push your luck system where you're revealing the top card of a deck, deciding right then and there if you want it, you want to put it into an auction pile, or you put it face up for all of the other players. You'll do this until you've revealed enough cards for all other players to take one, for you to keep one, and one to go in that auction pile. The entire deck will be depleted over the course of this push your luck, and after you've assembled your hand of cards, you go into the auction phase, where you take that that auction pile, shuffle it up, reveal a card, and then play it out. You'll be using your money in order to purchase these number cards, and you'll be using the number cards and other cards in your hand to claim money. There are also cards that are going to give you these little dice values, and they actually affect how much each of these colors are scored. For example, they all start at 3 here, but if I took this +1 die, then I could choose one of those dice and bump its point value to 4. At the end of the game, whoever has the most of a majority gets to take that die in front of them, and they're worth that many victory points. My favorite parts about Biblios have to do with the push your luck and how it trickles out the information. I love that you are getting partial knowledge, and you're able to understand what other players may have in their hands, and you are the only person who knows what goes into your hand and the bidding pile on your turn. It's such a great feeling, and I love how that's infused with pushing your luck and trying to get the best options, but that could vary based on what different cards are coming out, what cards you've already collected, and the point values of the dice in the center. I also love how the players control the amount of points that each of these monasteries are worth, and how if you think someone else might have a specific card, you can dunk its value or focus on bettering yourself if you feel confident about colors. But that may give away what you have, which will lead to other players being able to counterplay. I love how the auctioning for money works because it allows you to make some interesting plays in the form of even getting rid of money you already have. You can get rid of colors that you've collected a lot of, and you're pushing your luck there as well because you are trying to anticipate how much you can get away with. How many of these red cards can I get rid of and still win the red majority while also helping me win something else? It's all player driven, and it's all up to the information that everybody knows just a little piece of. Biblios is an incredible experience, my favorite inexpensive board game. And that's the list. Those are my top 10 inexpensive board games. What do you think of these games? What are your favorite inexpensive board games? Any recommendations that I should have put on here? I'd love to hear what you think. But thank you so much for watching, and thank you again to my Patreons, Jamie Wiley, Mom Gamer, and ATSOG. Thank you so much for your continuous support, and if you'd like to join the Patreon, please take a look in those links in the description below. But thank you so much for watching. SideGame Strong.